Have you ever wondered why she always chooses the other? Why, despite your efforts, do you end up being the confidant while another enjoy your kisses? Listen to me carefully, because what I am about to reveal you challenges everything you thought about knowing about female desire. I will not talk about superficial tricks or lies, but of an ancestral truth that 97% of men do not know. That devastating feeling when you see her get away with another while you remain motionless, invisible. That pain of being eternally the good friend, while inside you will take advantage of impotence. All that ends today. Because Machiavelli, the master of power strategies, understood something that few men understand. Seduction does not happen in the logical level, but in the primitive kingdom of emotions. If this first minute already made you reflect, I like it now, because what will completely transform your sentimental life. I will show you the forbidden method that causes her to not get you out of her mind, to look for you, to need you, to implore to stay by your side. Let's be brutally honest. Everything they taught you about conquering a woman's heart is an elaborate lie designed to stay in emotional mediocrity. How many times have you bought that face colony thinking that the aroma would give you confidence? How many flowers and expensive gifts have you delivered believing that money buys affection? How many times have you been that super attentive man who responds instantly because you thought that constant availability demonstrated genuine interest? And where has all that taken you? Straight to the dreaded area of friends. To that emotional limbo where good intentions become romantic invisibility. The brutal truth is that you were scheduled to fail from the beginning. Society, romantic films, even your own mother, everyone taught you the wrong way. They told you that you were gentle, educated, respectful. Do not be evil. These are important qualities to be a good human being. But alone, isolated from more primitive and powerful elements, do not create that unstoppable attraction that makes a woman not get you out of her mind. Do you know what you think? The tension, the mystery, that calculated danger that activates its deepest instincts. Think for a moment. Why is that guy who is not even so attractive to conquer them all? Because it has that unwavering trust that makes women orbit around them like planets around the sun. Because it understands something fundamental that you have not yet understood. Seduction does not happen in logic. It does not develop in the kingdom of rational conversations and convincing arguments. It happens in the instinct, in the subconscious, in those primitive layers of the brain where decisions are made before the conscious mind even realizes. Do you think women consciously choose who falls in love? Of course not. It is his primitive brain that decides, that ancestral part that comes from the times of the caverns, when the survival depended on choosing the right companion. And that brain is not moved with flowers or faces. It is not impressed with romantic gestures taken from films. He cares about signs of value, social domain, and protection capacity. Now, before you think I am telling you to become a cavernicola, calm. It is not about being rude or disrespectful. It is about understanding the ancestral dance between bodies and minds that occurs in seduction. It is about activating the right triggers at the precise moment, of touching those emotional strings that resonate at frequencies that most men do not even know that they exist. I spent more than 10 years studying this, testing it on the battlefield of human interactions, observing what works and what is miserably collapsed. And what I discovered goes against everything the experts in relationships that abound there, selling sweet but ineffective advice. Do you want to know the secret that nobody tells you? Women do not want a man who is always available, to be there every time they click their fingers. They want a man who has options, a man who doesn't need them to feel complete. Paradoxical, isn't it? The less you need it, the more it will wish you. It is a contradiction that challenges all romantic logic, but it is a psychological truth as solid as the laws of physics. But how do you demonstrate this without becoming an insensitive idiot? How do you create that aura of selfless interest without looking false or calculating? That is exactly what the Machiavelli system that I am to reveal will teach you. There are 4 fundamental pillars that will transform you with a common type and corriente and a magnet of attraction. Pay attention, because what is coming is pure gold, distilled from years of observation and practice. And no, it has nothing to do with those superficial techniques that only work with unsafe women. This is much deeper, more powerful, more transformative. This method is direct to the root of female attraction, activates psychological mechanisms as old as humanity itself. And when you dominate these 4 pillars, You will see how women begin to look differently, how they approach you, how they look for you without having to chase them. This knowledge is power, a power that few men possess. A power that, correctly used, will completely transform your sentimental life. Are you ready to meet the first pillar? Seduction does not begin with a simple hello that fades in the air without a trace. It begins with a break, a fracture in the expected, a spark in the silence that awakens something asleep in it. This is the first pillar, the Machiavellian movement. Forget everything they told you about traditional presentations. Forget that robotic, "How are you?" that dies at the time it is pronounced and that immediately classifies your interaction as one more of the pile. The first movement is not about being pleasant or harmless. It is about taking control of the emotional rhythm from the first second, of establishing that you are not one more of the flock of predictable men who approach it with the same spent lines that it has heard 1,000 times. Imagine approaching her, but instead of being predictable like everyone else, you tell her something like, "You have a face of someone who hates superficial conversations, but secretly loves chaos." At that time, something changes in its expression. He pauses, flashes. His brain is activated as an engine that has just received high-octane fuel. Why does this happen? Because you have interrupted your automatic pattern, that mental filter that is programmed to automatically discard generic men who approach you. At that moment, you are no longer one of them. You have managed to feel curiosity, and curiosity is the entrance drug to desire. This is what most men never understand. The first sentence is the foundation of the entire game that comes later. It is like the opening movement in chess. Establish the tempo of the entire departure. Define the emotional battlefield. If you open weak with something common and predictable, you have already put yourself defensive. You will spend the rest of the interaction chasing it, trying to recover lost ground. But if you open strong with something unexpected, poetic, or slightly absurd, the advantage of the frame. Now she is in your world playing according to your rules. This is movement. It's not about what you say exactly. It's about how sharply short everyday noise. It's about projecting a clear psychological signal. I'm not here to impress you desperately. I am here to see if the game is worth the game. And this is not just verbal. It is energetic. It is your tone, your timing, the deliberate calm in your way of speaking. That slight smile as if you already knew how all this will end. Men who approach with high frequency and predictable phrases are discarded by their subconscious in seconds. But a man who walks with a sense of controlled unpredictability becomes a question she wants to answer. Never forget this. Women are attracted to what they do not understand immediately. So I know the enigma. I know the break. I know the man who speaks not to impress with beautiful words, but to cause something inside her that had forgotten that he could feel. The Machiavellian movement consists in creating such a strong impression in the first moments that she cannot easily categorize. You are not the sympathetic boy. You are not the typical womanizer. You are not any of the predefined categories in which it places men. You are something new, something different, something that deserves to be explored. This first pillar also includes control of physical space. Do not stay static in one place as if you were afraid to move. It occupies the space with confidence. Change position naturally. Subtly guide it from one place to another. The physical movement creates emotional dynamism. When you apply this first pillar correctly, something fascinating happens. She begins to follow your movements, adapt to your rhythm, to enter your orbit. It is no longer you chasing her, but she following you. You have invested the usual dynamics of seduction. And here is the most powerful secret of the Machiavellian movement: the pause. Learning to make strategic breaks in the conversation creates an almost palpable tension. When most men feel silent, they rush it with nerve words. But you don't. You hug so that silence. You do it yours. You keep visual contact without saying anything for a few seconds more than it would be comfortable. Those seconds of tension are worth more than 1,000 words. When you master the Machiavellian movement, your presence becomes magnetic. You no longer need to pursue, because you have created an emotional gravitational field that attracts to you. This is the power of the first pillar, transforming the initial approach of an act of desperate plea into an intriguing invitation to your world. When your first movement makes it stop and think, the game is already yours. This is where the entire foundation of attraction begins to harden until it becomes unwavering, something untouchable, something extraordinarily weird in the modern world. The second pillar, the attitude of power. Trust is not what you say, it is what you don't need to say. You see, she perceives everything before you open your mouth. Read your essence. Look how you feel. How long do you keep visual contact if your presence fills the room or mendiga space? True confidence is silent. Walk without advertising. He speaks slowly, moves with certainty, and above all, he does not fear loss. That is the attitude you need to embody. I don't need you, but I'm not afraid either. This is the position that turns all the dynamics of head power. Once you learn it, she begins to qualify before you instead, that you have to demonstrate your value before her. Let me make it visual for you to understand it completely. Think of the last time you entered a car showroom. The seller who harassed you, who stuck to you as a shadow, who kept asking you, "Do you like it? Do you want to try it? What do you think?" He radiated a despair that you could smell, and instantly you had the advantage because its need decreased its value to your eyes. Now imagine another seller. He greets you calmly, shows you the car with elegance, then retires in silence. He knows what he is offering. He knows that you will feel it if it's right for you. Suddenly you feel the need to demonstrate that you are worthy of the deal. You start asking questions. You begin to justify your interest. It is exactly the same in seduction. When you demonstrate that your life is complete, rich in purpose, full of joy, anchored in strength, with or without it, you become the prize, not the desperate hunter, not the emotional beggar that begs for attention. And women do not pursue men who give them pity. They persecute men who respect, men who represent something they want to achieve or experiment. How did you radiate this attitude through your body? Because words lie, but energy never lies. Relaxed shoulders, but strong. Erect posture that speaks of dignity. Unwavering visual contact that does not apologize for existing. Slow and constant breathing. Precise and intentional movements as if you were the owner of the time itself. No trembling hands, no legs that jump nervously, nothing fast and anxious. You speak as if you will trust your silence, because studies show that more than 90% of communication is nonverbal. She not only listens to you, feels you in every fiber of her being. And if your energy says, "Please, love me," will move away, even if your words say something else completely. But if your presence says, "You are welcome to accompany me, but I do not fold by approval," he leans towards you because detachment is intoxicating, it is addictive, it is what most men never manage to convey. This is the paradox that changes everything. The less you look for validation, the more you multiply your value before your eyes. So remember, do not pursue your attention, pursue your own inner power. Because when a man becomes magnetic from the inside, everything outside begins to orbit around him, as if it were the gravitational center of his own universe. The attitude of Machiavellian power also implies emotional control. The mediocre men are slaves of their emotions, reacting to each small stimulus as puppets. You don't. You consciously choose what to feel, when to feel it, and how to express it. This does not mean suppressing your emotions, but strategically channeling them. When she causes you, you do not react with insecurity or defensiveness. You respond calmly, as if you were watching a child trying to cause a reaction. This emotional control be confronted because it is accustomed to men who lose their composure before the first test. Another crucial dimension of the attitude of power is emotional self-sufficiency. You don't need your approval to feel complete. Do not look for the validation that you should find in yourself. When you are with her, you are offering value, not begging attention. This position is irresistibly attractive because it is extremely rare. Most men approach in women from a lack of lack. I need your attention to feel good. You approach from an abundance position. My life is full, and I am inviting you to be part of it. Finally, the attitude of power is reflected in the way you handle conflicts and disagreements. Do not avoid tension for fear of losing it. Do not give in your principles to please it. You keep your integrity even when that means going against your immediate desires. Paradoxically, this firmness increases its respect and attraction towards you, because it shows that you are not manipulable. When this second pillar embodies truly, something magical happens. She begins to look for your approval instead. He worries about impressing you. He strives to stay at your level. Traditional dynamics are completely invested. It is no longer you chasing, but she conquering. This is the true power of Machiavellian attitude. This is the most counterintuitive of all, the seductive art of step back just at the maximum connection point. Not because you don't care, but because you understand one of the most powerful truths about female desire. Nostalgia creates obsession. The void generates desperate yearning. You know that perfect moment when the conversation flows effortlessly, when the smiles arise naturally, when she is completely present with you, absorbed in your presence, hanging from each word that comes out of your mouth. That is not the time to move forward and squeeze until the last drop of that connection. That is the time to leave, to disappear, just when everything feels more alive and promising. Yes, exactly, at the highest point. Just when you feel more electric and full of possibilities, you simply say, "I would love to stay longer, but I have to leave. Let's continue this at another time." What happens next is not logical. It is completely chemical and primitive. His brain releases dopamine in a considerable amount, and then you disappear. You just became the episode that ends up in suspense, the song that is cut in the best part, in the book that closes just when the plot gets interesting. Think of the last addictive series you saw. I did not explain everything. I did not solve all the plots. I left you hungry more. That is what you should become. Not the 3-hour film that crawls until everyone loses interest, but the tense episode full of tension that leaves it breathless and telling the days until next season. This means that you do not answer at the time she sends you a message. Do not answer each call as if you were waiting next to the phone. You live your life. You move around your world as a man in a mission, a man who has options, purpose, self, gravity. Because when she notices your absence, her emotional radar is activated in a way that she cannot control. Where are you? Who are you with? Why you have not responded? And at that time, he is not only thinking about you, he is feeling you. Now you are in your mind doing loop, reproducing your voice, rereading your last text as if it were a secret code that needs to decipher. This is the crucial change when she begins to pursue, not by strategy, but by tension, emotion without resolution, desire for resolution. That is what most men never understand. They stay too long, they respond too fast, eliminate all the tension, and in doing so, they kill desire in their crib. But you will learn to get away with elegance, to leave it with a proven, not with full food, to create silences that resonate stronger than words. Because that is the most beautiful and cruel paradox. The less you have you, the more you will need. This is not blind arrogance. It is not calculated manipulation. This is pure psychology applied with mastery. And the man who dominates her does not pursue as a desperate predator, attracts letting out, pulling to go, conquer retiring at the perfect moment. Strategic negligence also operates in the way you share information about yourself. Machiavelli knew that mystery is one of the most powerful forces of human attraction. Do not reveal everything about yourself in the first interactions. Keep shadow areas, without explaining spaces, unfinished stories. When she asks about your past, she answers with truth but without exhaustivity. Leave clues that invite her to want to know more. It is not lying. It is to understand that gradual revelation creates much more interest than immediate total transparency. This principle also applies to physical availability. You must have a genuinely occupied life and full of purpose beyond it. Do not cancel important plans just because she wants to see you. Do not reorganize your entire agenda to adapt to your whims. This subliminally communicates that your time has value, that your life has a substance, that you exist powerfully even when it is not. You go with her. And here comes a crucial nuance. Strategic negligence does not mean emotional coldness. When you are with her, you are completely present. You listen to it deeply. You make her feel seen and understood. The intensity of your presence when you are with it makes your absence even more shocking. It is this contrast that creates addiction. It is like an emotional pendulum that oscillates between the deep connection and the inexplicated space. Most men only offer one extreme. Either they are desperately available all the time, or are completely cold and distant. You offer both, creating a complex and addictive emotional experience. And remember, strategic negligence is not sustainable without the other pillars, without the powerful initial movement, without the attitude of unwavering trust. This third pillar could be perceived as simple disinterest. The three pillars work in concert. mutually amplifying, creating a symphony of attraction that few women can resist. When you truly dominate this third pillar, you will experience something that few men know: the pleasure of being sought, of being longed for, of being expected with almost painful anticipation. You will no longer pursue crumbs of female care. You will have women willing to reorganize their lives just to fit in yours. This is the transforming power of Machiavellian strategic. Take the initiative and climb the interaction when necessary, without a doubt that they paralyze you. This is the moment of truth where most men fail miserably, where all the previous pillars fall apart if you do not have the value of acting. You created attraction, you built emotional tension, you played the detachment game. Now you need to act with decision. And this is where fear appears in all its ugliness. Fear of rejection, the fear of ruining everything you have built, the fear of being seen as invasive or inappropriate. But let me tell you a secret that will transform your perspective forever. Women want you to take the initiative. They fantasize with a man who knows what he wants and is not afraid to go for it without apologizing for his masculinity. Almost no one realizes this, but the hesitation kills more opportunities than rejection itself. When you feel that the moment is correct, it acts without asking permission, without asking if you can. You read your signs and advance with the trust of someone who understands the silent language of desire. It could be to take your hand as they walk. It could be to bring it closer during a conversation. It could be that kiss at the perfect moment when the silence speaks stronger than 1,000 words. The audacity calculated is what separates men from children who play to be men. It is what makes your friends mention the next day. It is what creates shocking memories that you cannot forget even if you want. Are you ready for this level of intensity and commitment? The fourth pillar of Machiavelli demands that you leave the comfort zone, that you leave behind the self-imposed limitations, that you throw yourself in the void knowing that you can fly. The audacity calculated is not blind recklessness. It is not about being aggressive or insensitive. It's about reading the moment with surgical precision and acting when all signs are aligned. It is the art of advancing with conviction while you keep full awareness of your answers, adjusting in real time to what she communicates not with words, but with her body, her breathing, her gaze. Look at your extensive pupils, your slightly accelerated breathing, the way you lean towards you when you speak, how she plays with her hair or slightly bites her lip. These are the true indicators of interest, much more reliable than anything that says. When you see these signs converging, it is time to act with decision. Machiavellian audacity also implies direct communication when necessary. Do not hide behind vague insinuations or ambiguous comments. You say what you think with a perfect mixture of respect and daring. "I like you, and I think we must explore this," said at the right time, with the correct intensity. It can be more powerful than 1,000 indirect conversations. This pillar also means creating situations that facilitate intimacy. You do not expect perfect circumstances to fall from heaven. You deliberately create them. You invite you to places that stimulate the senses. You choose environments that naturally encourage connection. You build experiences that will be recorded in your emotional memory. A crucial element of the audacity calculated is the ability to handle rejection gracefully. When you fear so much the rejection that paralyzes you, you transmit insecurity. But when you have made peace with the possibility of being rejected, you radiate magnetic trust. If you advance and she is not ready, you go back with dignity, without drama, without pressure, without changing your energia. This communicates that your value does not depend on your response, which paradoxically increases your value before your eyes. Machiavelli understood that true power does not fear the calculated risk. Mediocre men always play for sure and end up for oblivion. Exceptional men take intelligent risks and are immortalized in the memory of those who know them. When you master this fourth pillar, you experience a deep release. You are no longer a slave to fear of rejection. You no longer lose opportunities for hesitation. You act when you must act. You advance when you must move forward. And in doing so, you become that strange specimen that women describe their friends as different from everyone else. The audacity calculated, combined with the previous three pillars, creates a devastating effect. You have captured your attention with the initial movement. You have established your value with the attitude of power. You have created longing with strategic negligence, and now seal all with decisive action at the perfect time. This is the complete Machiavellian system. the formula that completely transforms your ability to attract and maintain female interest. Now that you know the 4 pillars of the Machiavellian seduction method, it is time to talk about its practical application. Because all this knowledge is useless if you do not implement it in the real world, with real women, in real situations. We start with a crucial element that most overlooks, the magnetic touch. This has nothing to do with uncontrolled lust. It is not about handling or forcing situations. This is ancestral ritual, primitive language that transcends words. The touch is the oldest language of humanity, older than words, deeper than logic. Avoid the mind and speak directly to the subconscious where real decisions are made. But here's the secret that changes everything. She does not feel attracted to the touch in himself. He is attracted to the way he happens, to his perfect timing, at his pace, to his clear intention. The right touch at the right time can tie a memory to your body in a way that will last forever. But the wrong touch, the hurried, the forced, kills everything instantly. How do you start then? Not with blind audacity, but with calculated innocence. A light touch on his shoulder as you laugh at something he said. A hand guiding her gently through a door. A shock of slow and playful palms that stays half more than normal. Moments that feel natural, but that leave an indelible mark. Scales not through pressure, but through presence. You touch and then retire. And that withdrawal is everything. Create absence, and absence creates craving. This is what most men never understand. The touch is not about contact. It is what happens at the time later. Because when you touch and stop, your body feels silence and begins to surprise yourself before you have gone. This is the intermittent touch, the psychological equivalent of a beat. On, off, close, far, safe, dangerous. Build tension that cannot name. It floods its system with oxytocin and dopamine, the same chemicals that are released during pleasure and connection. But you are not connecting. You are recording in your nervous system as a brand that you can never delete. And here is the beautiful paradox. The more natural it seems, the more powerful it becomes. You should not telegraph intention. You should not hesitate. You touch like a man who has done it 1,000 times, not because you are desperate, but because you are focused on yourself. Your hand does not ask permission. Read your reaction. If you lean towards you, you know it. If you retire, you adapt. Because the male touch is not invasive, it is observer. Listen with the skin. And when used correctly, it makes it feel terribly weird in the modern world. A man who is in self-control and tuned with her at the same time. That is magnetic. That is what keeps her awake at night. Because long after the words are forgotten, she will remember how you made her feel, not in your mind, in your body. There is a last weapon that you must dominate, one in which most men do not even think. Cold reading. It is not magic. It is precision. The silent art of reading what she wants before she even knows. Because each woman leaves subtle signs, not in her words, but in her patterns. The way you dress, the speed of your voice, the rhythm in your walk, which you publish online, where it goes, what it avoids. You are not just a man. You are an emotional detective reading between the lines, tracking the energy behind the words, feeling the signs that he does not say aloud. A woman who wears striking and brilliant jewelry is screaming for attention. The reflector wants and the confirmation that he still has it. A woman in subtle and elegant tones is more deep, more private. I long to be understood, not only superficially seen. Look at your way of speaking. If you speak fast, gesture widely, it is spontaneous, reactive, guided by pure feeling. If he speaks slowly, carefully, it is calculated, saved, strategic in each movement. And when you adjust your energy to coincide with its hidden nature, when you reflect what you really need without asking you become irresistible because you are not offering what you are consciously demanding. You are offering what is secretly dying to receive. That is the real power. The understanding that each human being is hungry for something that cannot even articulate. But here is the trap in which most men fall. They try to do everything instantly. They are outboard techniques, force results, mimic, act, represent a script that is not yours. But this is not acting. This is incarnation of your true male nature. So decelerate. Starts with just a pillar. Apply it for a week until it becomes real, until it is part of you. Then another and another, until the system is not something you memorize, but something you are. Because this Machiavellian method that I am giving you is not about becoming someone else. It is about freeing the true you, the alpha that society buried under years of shame, guilt, and conditioning, which made you believe that your masculinity was something to apologize. Now, an important clarification. This is not manipulation in the toxic sense of the word. It is not to be a heart without heart. Manipulation is when you lie, cheat, or do something against their will. What I'm teaching you is the opposite. It is about being authentic in your masculinity, of understanding what really creates attraction, and acting accordingly with that understanding. Think with me. When a woman puts on makeup, he chooses a beautiful outfit, uses a special perfume. Is he being manipulative? Of course not. It is presenting itself in the best possible way. You are using tools to become more attractive. That is exactly what you are doing, using psychological tools to arouse genuine attraction. It is not about deceiving anyone or creating a false personality. It is about being the best version of yourself, the most authentic and powerful. And let me tell you something that few men know. Women want to be seduced. They dream of that, read books about that, see movies about that, but they want to be seduced by a real man, not by an insecure guy who apologizes to exist. Wake up once and for all. Time is draining while you remain ruminating, overanalyzing each possibility. Other men are already using this Machiavellian method and obtaining results while you keep seeing, you keep doubting, you keep asking if this really works. Knowledge without action is like a scalpel that never cuts, a sleeping power in the maze of your fears. Within 5 years, do you want to be in the same place with the same silent frustrations? Seeing the woman you wanted in the arms of a man who simply knew how to move? Or do you want to be the man she can't forget, the man who never begs, the man who chooses instead of being chosen? The choice is yours, and it has always been. But remember this as if your life depends on it. Every second of indecision is a wall that separates you from what you deserve. Most of the men who listen to this will do nothing. They will remain the same. They will remain Gentile to invisibility. They will be trapped in the area of the perhaps, the area of the ghosteos, the area of friends for all eternity. But you are not like them. You can be the exception, the one who took this and transformed everything. If this message resonated in you, he says, I dominate without begging. And prepare, because in the next video I will reveal how to apply these 4 pillars in specific situations that will completely transform your reality.